A sentence like Luke 14:26 can stop a careful reader cold. Jesus turns to a large crowd and says, "If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple." Read quickly. It sounds as though Jesus is demanding something morally disturbing, hostility toward the very people Scripture elsewhere tells us to honor, love, protect, and serve. And the difficulty becomes sharper when we remember who is speaking. Jesus rebukes religious people for using pious excuses to avoid caring for their parents. He teaches love of neighbor. He receives children. From the cross, he makes provision for his mother. So what are we supposed to do with a command that appears to move in the opposite direction? The easiest answer is to say that hate simply means love less and then move on. But that is too quick. The Greek word Jesus uses is strong. Luke does not soften it, and the rest of the paragraph shows that Jesus is intentionally speaking in severe, uncompromising terms. The key is not to weaken the word until it becomes harmless. The key is to ask what kind of contrast Jesus is creating. Luke 14:26 is not a command to cultivate emotional hatred toward your family. It is a demand that allegiance to Jesus becomes so decisive that every other loyalty, even the deepest and most legitimate loyalty in your life, must come second. And Luke makes that meaning clearer by surrounding the verse with two other statements that use exactly the same warning: "cannot be my disciple." That threefold pattern changes how the whole passage reads. Luke tells us that great crowds were traveling with Jesus. That detail matters because crowds can create the appearance of success. If we were designing a movement, this might be the moment to make the message easier. More people are coming. Interest is growing. Momentum is visible. Jesus does the opposite. He turns to the crowd and describes discipleship in language that seems designed to expose shallow enthusiasm. He speaks first about family and life itself. Then he speaks about carrying a cross. Then, after two brief illustrations about counting the cost, he speaks about giving up possessions. 3 times the same conclusion returns: "If this condition is not faced, a person cannot be my disciple." So Luke 14:26 is not an isolated, shocking sentence. It is the first part of a carefully constructed warning about divided allegiance. The first word we need to look at is the one that causes the problem: miseo, usually translated hate. It is a real word for hate. It can describe hostility, rejection, or aversion. We should not pretend that the Greek itself is mild. But words do not carry only one mechanical meaning in every context. Their force is shaped by the contrast in which they appear. Scripture sometimes uses love and hate language, not merely to describe emotion, but to describe preference, choice, loyalty, or rejection. Think about Jacob, Rachel, and Leah in Genesis. Jacob loves Rachel more than Leah, and the text then describes Leah as hated in a context where the point is clearly that she is the less loved wife. The language is painful and strong, but it is comparative. The issue is not that Jacob spends every day feeling active rage toward Leah. The issue is that one relationship is preferred over the other. A similar contrast appears in Deuteronomy's law concerning a man with 2 wives, one loved and one hated. Again, the legal problem is favoritism. The less favored wife's son must not be denied his rightful inheritance simply because the father prefers the other wife. That background helps, but we still need to be precise. It would be misleading to say that miseo always means love less. It does not. The word can genuinely mean hate. What matters in Luke 14 is the function of the contrast, and the clearest clue comes from Jesus himself. Matthew records a closely related saying in different wording: "Whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me." The comparison is explicit. The issue is not whether parents and children should be loved, the issue is whether they are loved more than Jesus. That does not erase Luke's harder wording, it explains it. Luke preserves the sharp edge. Matthew makes the comparison unmistakable. Put them together, and the point is not, feel malice toward your family. The point is, no family relationship may outrank your loyalty to me. That is already demanding. But Luke goes further because Jesus does not stop with father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters. He adds, yes, and even his own life. That phrase makes a purely emotional reading much harder to sustain. If Jesus were commanding ordinary psychological hatred, then the sentence would require not only hostility toward relatives, but also self-hatred. Yet the rest of the New Testament does not present discipleship as contempt for one's own existence. Jesus is not training people to despise the fact that they are alive. He is saying that even self-preservation cannot become the highest authority when it conflicts with faithfulness to Him. The Greek phrase translated his own life includes the word psyche. Depending on context, psyche can refer to life, self, or soul. Here the point is not a technical theory about the soul. It is the person's own life, the self one naturally protects. So the list moves inward. Father, mother, wife, children, brothers, sisters, then your own life. Jesus takes the strongest human bonds and ends with the bond to self. That is the first major clue to what hate is doing in the verse. It is the language of a loyalty so absolute that every other claim can be refused when it competes with the claim of Christ. And that creates an important distinction. Jesus is not telling disciples to become cruel people. He is telling them that following Him may create moments in which obedience feels from the outside like rejection. A first-century listener did not hear family as a casual category. Family meant identity, inheritance, reputation, economic security, marriage expectations, and social belonging. In many cultures, including the world of the Gospels, family loyalty could determine nearly every major decision in a person's life. So imagine the pressure hidden inside Jesus' words. What happens when the family you love does not understand your allegiance to Him? What happens when obedience brings shame, conflict, or exclusion? What happens when pleasing the people closest to you would require disobeying the one you call Lord? Jesus is saying that discipleship reaches that far. This is why the verse should not be reduced to a softer slogan such as, "Put God first." That statement is true, but Luke 14:26 shows what first may cost. Jesus is not describing a neat priority list in which every relationship remains comfortable as long as Jesus sits at the top. He is describing a loyalty that can create real division. Elsewhere, Jesus warns that His mission will sometimes divide households. That does not mean He delights in family conflict. It means the truth about Him forces decisions, and decisions expose loyalties. The gospel does not abolish natural affection. It places every affection under a higher allegiance. Now notice what Luke does immediately after the family saying. Jesus says, "Whoever does not bear his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple." There is the phrase again. Cannot be my disciple. That repetition matters. The first statement concerns relationships and life. The second concerns the cross. The third, later in the paragraph, concerns possessions. Luke is not giving three unrelated examples of extreme spirituality. He is showing three areas in which discipleship challenges the things human beings naturally protect: our closest people, our own lives, and our material security. That pattern gives us the center of the passage. To follow Jesus is to surrender the right to place anything else beyond His claim. The cross saying makes the cost more severe. We sometimes use my cross to bear for an inconvenience, a difficult personality, or a recurring problem. But Jesus' listeners knew the cross as an image of shame, powerlessness, and death under Roman rule. He is not saying discipleship can be annoying. He is saying that following him may require a person to walk a path on which self-protection no longer has the final word. And notice the grammar of the movement. Bear your own cross and come after me. Discipleship is not admiration from a safe distance, it is following. That helps us understand why the family language is so strong. Jesus is addressing people who are traveling with him, but he distinguishes traveling near him from becoming his disciple. A crowd can move in the same direction without accepting the same cost. So Jesus turns around and makes the hidden cost visible. Then he tells two short illustrations. First, a man wants to build a tower. Before beginning, he should sit down and calculate whether he can finish. Otherwise, he may lay the foundation and then become a public example of failure. Second, a king considers going to war against another king with a larger force. Before the battle, he must sit down and consider whether he can meet the stronger army. If not, he seeks terms while the other king is still far away. Both illustrations contain the same sober action. Sit down and consider. Jesus is not trying to discourage sincere discipleship. He is rejecting impulsive discipleship built on incomplete expectations. The crowd must know what following him means before calling itself committed. And then comes the third "cannot be my disciple" statement. So therefore, any one of you who does not renounce all that he has cannot be my disciple. Now the pattern is complete. Family and life. Cross. Possessions. These are not random sacrifices. Together they describe the collapse of rival ownership claims. Your family does not own your ultimate obedience. Your instinct for self-preservation does not own your ultimate obedience. Your possessions do not own your ultimate obedience. Jesus does. That is the discovery that keeps Luke 14:26 from becoming either monstrous or harmless. If we interpret hate as emotional cruelty, we contradict the broader teaching and example of Jesus. But if we weaken it into a vague reminder to love Jesus a little more, we miss the force of the passage. Jesus is demanding supreme allegiance, and supreme allegiance becomes visible precisely when loyalties collide. This also explains another word in the verse, disciple. The Greek term is mathetes, a learner or follower. In the Gospels, a disciple is not merely someone who agrees with Jesus' ideas. A disciple attaches himself to Jesus, receives his teaching, follows his way, and accepts his authority. That is why "cannot be my disciple" is stronger than "will not be an especially committed Christian." Jesus is not describing an advanced spiritual option for a few unusually devoted believers. In Luke's presentation, this is basic to what discipleship means. The warning is universal. If anyone comes to me, not pastors, not missionaries, not martyrs, anyone, that should make us cautious about a comfortable interpretation. Jesus is not asking whether he has an important place in your life. He is asking whether any relationship, possession, ambition, reputation, or instinct has the power to veto him. And family is named first because family loyalty is usually good. That may be one of the most important details in the entire passage. Jesus does not begin with obviously sinful things. He does not say, "If anyone comes to me and does not hate corruption, cruelty, and idolatry, he cannot be my disciple." Those would be easy enemies. He names gifts. Parents are gifts. Marriage is a gift. Children are gifts. Brothers and sisters are gifts. Life is a gift. Possessions can be gifts. The danger is not that these things are evil. The danger is that good gifts can become ultimate claims. That is much more searching. It means the competition for Jesus' place in our lives does not always come from something dark. Sometimes it comes from something we are right to love. A parent may ask for loyalty that contradicts obedience to Christ. A spouse may pressure someone toward dishonesty. A child may become the center around which every moral decision is reorganized. A family reputation may matter so much that truth is hidden to protect it. Financial security may become untouchable. In those moments, discipleship is revealed not by whether we have affection, but by which claim wins. This is where Luke's severe word becomes pastorally important. There are situations in which faithfulness to Jesus will feel to another person like rejection. The disciple may still speak gently, act patiently, provide materially, forgive freely, and seek peace. Yet if obedience requires saying no, the disciple must be willing to say no. Love does not mean surrendering ultimate authority, and allegiance does not require emotional hatred. The distinction is crucial because Christians have sometimes misused hard sayings of Jesus to justify harshness. Luke 14:26 gives no permission for neglect, contempt, abuse, or the abandonment of ordinary responsibilities. Jesus cannot be invoked as an excuse for becoming less loving. In fact, the same Jesus who demands first place also intensifies our obligation to love. He criticizes those who use religious dedication as a loophole for dishonoring father and mother. In Mark 7, he confronts people who could declare resources korban, devoted to God, and then avoid helping their parents. Jesus treats that religious maneuver as a violation of God's command. That is striking in light of Luke 14. You cannot use loyalty to Jesus as a reason to disobey Jesus. If someone says, "I am hating my family for Christ," while acting with cruelty, neglect, or pride, the very teaching of Christ exposes the contradiction. The point is not to become less faithful in our family responsibilities. The point is that even those responsibilities remain under the authority of Jesus. John's Gospel gives us another picture. As Jesus is dying, he sees his mother and entrusts her care to the beloved disciple. The one who told disciples that they must hate father and mother does not model indifference toward his own mother. So the gospel evidence pushes us away from two errors at once. The first error is to make Jesus cruel. The second is to make Jesus tame. He is neither. He does not command emotional hatred of family, but he does demand a loyalty that can become painfully costly when family and discipleship pull in different directions. And this is exactly where Matthew 10:37 helps again. "Whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me." That wording shows the comparison, but the rest of Matthew's saying quickly returns to the same image Luke uses, taking up the cross and following Jesus. The two Gospels are not giving us competing ideas. They are showing the same demand from two angles. Matthew emphasizes the hierarchy of love. Luke emphasizes the severity of the break when loyalties conflict. Together, they prevent us from misunderstanding both the tenderness and the seriousness of discipleship. There is another reason Luke's wording matters. The word hate forces the listener to confront the possibility that loyalty to Jesus cannot always be added smoothly to an already established life. Sometimes modern people imagine religion as an additional layer. You have family, work, goals, finances, politics, habits, and personal identity, and then you add faith somewhere among them. Jesus refuses that arrangement. He does not ask to be inserted into an existing hierarchy. He claims authority over the hierarchy itself. That is why the verse is so disruptive. The question is not, how much affection do I feel toward Jesus compared with my relatives? Feelings are not easily measured, and Jesus does not give us an emotional percentage. The question is, who has the final claim on me? That is a much more concrete question. When Jesus' command and family expectation agree, the cost may be invisible. When they conflict, the hierarchy appears. When Jesus' command and financial interest agree, surrender may be invisible. When obedience threatens money, the hierarchy appears. When following Jesus feels safe, carrying the cross remains an idea. When obedience costs reputation, security, or comfort, the hierarchy appears. Luke 14 is about that unveiling, and that helps explain why Jesus tells people to count the cost. He is not interested in producing a large crowd that has misunderstood the terms. There is a strange honesty in this scene. Jesus does not promise the crowd that discipleship will protect every relationship from strain. He does not guarantee that obedience will preserve social approval. He does not hide the possibility of loss. Instead, he tells them before they commit. That is not manipulation. It is the opposite of manipulation. He makes the cost visible, but we should also notice what the passage does not say. Jesus does not say that every disciple will lose his family. He does not command believers to manufacture conflict. He does not make estrangement a badge of holiness. He does not tell people to seek suffering as proof of seriousness. The issue is readiness, not performance. A disciple must be ready to follow Jesus even if the cost reaches the deepest attachments of life. That distinction matters because some people hear a text like this and immediately wonder whether they must prove their devotion by choosing the harder path in every situation. But Jesus is not glorifying difficulty for its own sake. He is exposing rival lordships. If reconciliation is possible without disobedience, pursue reconciliation. If you can honor your parents and follow Christ, honor them. If you can preserve peace without denying truth, preserve peace. If you can remain generous, patient, and present while holding your conviction, do so. The command becomes costly when another loyalty demands what belongs to Christ. Then the disciple cannot say, "I will follow Jesus unless my family objects." He cannot say, "I will obey as long as it does not threaten my future." He cannot say, "I will carry the cross as long as I remain in control." He cannot say, "Everything belongs to Jesus except the part I refuse to release." That is why the three cannot be my disciple sayings belong together. The family saying is not an embarrassing verse we need to explain away before moving to the real message. It is the opening edge of the real message. Jesus is not asking for one more loyalty among many. He is asking for the loyalty by which all the others are ordered. That also gives us a better way to hear the word hate. In this passage, the word functions like a boundary marker. When two claims become incompatible, one must be preferred and the other refused. The refusal may be experienced as severe. It may carry social consequences. It may be called betrayal by the person who expected obedience. But the disciple's goal is not hostility. The disciple's goal is faithfulness. This becomes even clearer when Jesus includes even his own life. If the command reaches beyond family to self, then the ultimate rival is not a particular person. It is any claim that says, "You may follow Jesus only up to this point." Jesus names the point beyond which many people will not go. For one person, it is family approval. For another, it is safety. For another, money. For another, status. For another, control. Luke 14 gathers them into one question. Is Jesus allowed to say no to the thing you most fear losing? That is why this text remains uncomfortable even after it is correctly interpreted. A correct interpretation does not make it easy. It makes it clear. The verse does not tell you to despise your mother, abandon your children, or become emotionally cold. It tells you that the love of family itself must exist under the lordship of Christ. It does not tell you to hate being alive. It tells you that even your life cannot become an idol of self-preservation. It does not tell you that possessions are evil. It tells you that possessions cannot own the person who claims to follow Jesus. All three statements point in the same direction. Discipleship is not the addition of Jesus to an otherwise untouched life. It is the reordering of the entire life around Jesus. And that is why the great crowd matters so much. At the beginning of the scene, many people are near Jesus. By the end of the scene, Jesus has forced them to ask whether they actually belong to him. Nearness is not the same as discipleship. Interest is not the same as allegiance. Admiration is not the same as surrender. The people in the crowd may enjoy his teaching, They may be fascinated by his miracles. They may hope he will fulfill their expectations. But Jesus turns and speaks as though the size of the crowd means nothing if the crowd has not understood the cost. That is a sobering word for every generation of Christians. It is possible to be surrounded by Christian language, Christian media, Christian habits, and Christian people, while quietly preserving one final veto over Jesus. I will follow, but not if it costs this. Luke 14:26 brings that sentence into the light. And perhaps that is why Jesus chooses such severe language. Gentle wording would allow us to protect our exceptions. Hate does not. It forces the question, not do you have affection for your family? You should. Not do you value your life? You may. Not do you own possessions? Most people do. The question is whether any of them can become your Lord. Jesus' answer is no. So, did Jesus really say to hate your family? Yes, Luke really records that word. We should not rewrite the verse to make it less shocking. But no, he was not commanding emotional hostility, contempt, or cruelty toward parents, spouses, children, brothers, or sisters. The surrounding passage, the parallel wording in Matthew, the broader biblical use of love and hate contrasts, and Jesus' own teaching about family responsibility all point in a different direction. He was demanding a love and loyalty so supreme that every other attachment becomes secondary by comparison. And Luke shows us how serious that demand is by repeating the same line 3 times. If family outranks him, you cannot be his disciple. If you refuse the cross, you cannot be his disciple. If possessions remain beyond his claim, you cannot be his disciple. The verse is not about learning to hate the people God has given you. It is about refusing to let even the people you rightly love take the place that belongs to Christ alone. That is the difference between cruelty and discipleship. Cruelty pushes people away because we do not love them. Discipleship may sometimes disappoint people precisely because there is a higher obedience we cannot surrender. And if that sounds costly, Jesus would agree. That is why he told the crowd to count the cost before pretending otherwise. The hardest part of Luke 14:26 is not the word hate once we understand its function. The hardest part is the claim beneath it. Jesus does not ask for the most important corner of your life. He asks for the throne. If this passage changed the way you read that difficult word, share in the comments what part of Jesus' warning feels most challenging to understand or live out. And as you continue reading Scripture, may you learn to hear both the severity and the goodness of the one who calls us to follow him.